Wessel en Clarissa, Coetzee, al die pad van Hillsong, Suid-Afrika. Dankie. Ek weet nie of julle mics anders nie. Nee, oh man, ek dink alleen maar 'n knoppie.
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Thanks, dis lekker om hier te wees. En well done van wat die worship gedoen het vir soos 'n goeie uur en 'n half. Dis endurance.
That's endurance.
Ja.
Ja, julle het gesê.
Well done. Wie was die drummer? Was jy die drummer geweest? Hoe is jou arms? ja, so. It's doing good.
Funnieste van ons speel vanaand weer.
Hey yo.
Well, he's locked in. He's got it.
Classic. Vanaand draai sy hare los.
Okay, let's go. Ons is reg.
Om te rock.
Ons sit, hoorie so, thanks. Ek weet dit is soos 'n heavy na 'n goeie lunch en 'n lang worship. So ons gaan net 'n half so in die lounge sit vandag.
Absoluut.
En hierdie couch is baie lekker. My vrou is 3 maande pregnant, so sy mag dalk slaap op die bank.
Weer eens baie geluk.
Dankie, ons gaan dit elke keer opbring.
Ja, asseblief, doen dit.
Dankie.
Ek bedoel, hier's mense wat nou eers join.
Okay, yes.
Ja.
Ons sal vanaand weer vir hulle laat weet.
Laat weet vanaand weer.
Ja.
En dis ook soos jy vroeër gesê het, 'n lunch. Jy moet jouself herhaal baie keer.
Precisely.
Om dit te snap en te weet. Dis 'n goeie voorbeeld.
Dis wat ons gaan doen vandag.
Ja, classic. So lekker om julle te hê. Ons obviously voor ons in 'n talk gaan ingaan van wat ons soort van voorberei het en soort van weet. Ons wil dit obviously so reëel as moontlik hou. Maar ons wil 'n bietjie julle ken ook sodat die mense daarom weet met wie julle gesels. Julle hoef nou nie om te share is pregnant is nogal 'n diep verhouding ding om te share, maar soos of nou nie in diepte in te gaan nie, maar Wessel en Clarissa. Julle is getroud, obviously. Vertel ons 'n bietjie net van julle self. Ek weet dit is 'n cliché ding om te sê, vertel 'n bietjie van jouself, maar
ja, waar begin ons?
Ja,
geboorte.
Ja, julle obviously van waar kom julle klein stukkie van wat jy nou verduidelik het, hoe jy net vanaand in die bediening ingekom het en obviously hoe julle ontmoet het. Dis baie
yes. Okay, so ek sal sê ek kan Afrikaans praat. My vrou kan nie Afrikaans praat nie. Baie goed in Engels. Ek sal vanaand in Engels preek definitief. Ek het al probeer in Afrikaans preek. Ek is nie ken dit nie, so ek kan dit in Engels doen. Maar ja, wat se tyd se begin soos mekaar ontmoet het. Ek het
ek sê die vrou wat verduidelik. Ek weet nie hoe jy dit reg kry nie, maar as iemand
No, our accounts are like they're so different.
Ja, ons het heeltemal verskillende stories oor hoe
I was like, were you even there? Do you remember?
To me it was like a dream.
Okay.
You know, so
Okay,
thank you.
You start, that's fine. Go.
Ek dink elke panel wat ons doen, fight ons oor dit. So want ek verstaan
Because your version changes every time. That doesn't even make sense. It's
okay,
not
so
even
dis hoe dit
consistent.
gebeur het. Ek was op Stellenbosch saved geraak so hier op 19 eerste jaar. Ek weet enigiemand wat geswat het of Stellenbosch gegaan het, dis the world of temptation en stellies. En na 'n jaar is ek soos, oh my word, what am I doing? Jy weet, soos, gaan ek op hierdie pad gaan, of gaan ek eintlik 'n besluit maak? Want ek het groot geraak, konservatief in die kerk, jy weet, ons is daar elke Sondag, maar nooit regtig daai lewendige verhouding met God gehad nie, en soos daai revelation van wat Jesus vir my gedoen het. So in die kerk groot geraak, maar soos enige goeie, ek sal myself 'n Facebook Christen genoem het, jy weet, op Facebook sê dit soos Christian, maar my lewe wys dit nie regtig nie. Maar hierso 19 is ek soos, okay, ek gaan voluit vir Jesus lewe. Jy dink dis great, en dan weet jy nie wat jou volgende stap is. Soos, yes, jy weet, jy's by een of ander kamp, of soos 'n conference, myne was soos 'n kamp, Jesus ek's in, jy weet, this is going to be amazing. En toe was ek nooit, dis soos, jy maak die besluit, en jy is nooit connected in 'n kerkie, so dis die amazing ding van hierdie, want wanneer jy besluit maak, of jy het accountability nodig, of jy is net soos, hoorie so, is iemand wat op die journey gaan saam met my, want ek kan dit nie alleen doen, ek weet nie eens wat die volgende stap nie, en so het ek al vir 5 jaar net, jy weet, ek het die besluit gemaak, maar ek weet nie regtig hoe om dit uit te leef nie, nooit regtig geplant geraak in 'n kerk nie, en ek het ergens, waar was ek het rugby gespeel en my skouer gebreek toe ons ek was in Frankryk gewees en toe letterlik daar net soos gestop en was soos okay, ek het vir 5 jaar half agter iets aangechase, iets wat ek geweet het nie regtig soos jy kan nou hierdie lewe, jy weet almal dink rugby spelers het hierdie tipe lewe en daar is so half 'n kultuur rondom dit. Maar met dit was ek soos, is dit al wat my lewe gaan wees? En letterlik is 'n besering wat my laat sit het. En ek was soos, okay God, 5 jaar terug het ek hierdie besluit gemaak, wat beteken dit? En so het God letterlik vir my in 'n droom gewys, net vir my 'n kerk gewys en vir my daai, jy weet, vers in Psalm gesê, those who are planted in the house of God shall flourish. En ek het so 'n prentjie gekry van 'n kerk, locally daar naby ons, en toe ek instap, ek het geweet dis Hillsong Kerk, so toe ek al instap, toe sê ek dadelik soos, dis waar God my wil hê, dis waar ek geplant gaan wees, en sê net maar, dis 8 jaar terug gewees, so ek nog nie weer Sondag gemis nie, so dit was letterlik soos, okay, God sê, wees geplant in die kerk, en lang storie kort te maak, ons sal nou oor ons verhouding praat, maar so was ek net soos, okay, ek gaan in die kerk wees, ek gaan serve, ek gaan al wat ek gaan doen is, ek wil in die atmosfeer gevang gewees, ek wil eerder hierdie kultuur hê, as die kultuur al buite, so ek was net soos, I'm all in, en ja, physio geswat op daai stadium, ek weet nie, ons kan praat oor as jy daartoe wil gaan later, oor hoe ek in die bediening ingekom het, maar so het ek in die kerk geserve, en ek het net hierdie girl gesing, wat nooit met my wou praat nie. Jy weet soos, jy dink, girls wil met jou praat, maar hierdie een wil net nie. En ek was so intrigued, want ek was soos, okay, daar's baie, en ek sal nou generalize, so daar was, jy weet, daar's altyd iemand, almal weet kerk, jy weet, kerk is baie single mense, jy hop so rond, jy kyk wie's wie, en ek het gekyk wie's wie, behalwe hierdie een wat die hele tyd aan die kant staan en nie met my wil praat nie. So toe sê ek soos, okay, challenge accepted, ek gaan met haar gaan chat. En ek gaan die eendag op na sy was so 'n intern gewees in die youth ministry, en ek gaan op en ek soos, I want to, sign up to be a youth leader, maar sy het my nie een keer in die oë gekyk en niks, ek het soos, en ek was ook soos, want hulle moet jou details vat as jy insign vir iets, en ek soos, hier is my details, as jy nou regtig vir jouself wil gebruik, jy weet. 3 weke later kom ek terug en ek soek hierdie girl, ek soos, hoorie so, ek het my details ingegee, niemand my gekontak oor die youth nie, jy het nie eens vir my gedm en niks nie. Nee, regtig, ek dink daai tyd was nog Twitter, dit was voor Instagram en goeie, of MySpace, jy weet, en so dit maar net vir my was ek soos, okay, jy weet, ek love a girl wat, of nie almal so meisie is nie, sy was nie, jy weet, all over the place, sy was nie soos, as sy over my wil hê, gaan hy my pursue, en so het ek al begin pursue, ek moes baie goed opmaak, soos hoorie, sy's 'n designer, so sy oversees, sy's die art director vir ons by Hillsong Kerk, en ek was soos, okay, hey, ek het designs nodig, so ek moes dit opmaak om net 'n koffie te kry saam met haar, en hier is nou wat, 5 jaar getroud, eerste baba, so het gewerk, wees in die kerk, mense, catch julle by die koffie, wat julle, honey, milk and honey, that's where it happens. What's your story?
That was actually very accurate this time.
Yeah.
So I actually do know you know the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was really
I
accurate.
skipped all the details that happened in my head.
Because usually he goes, I lost his number, I didn't want to, whatever.
You did lose my number. Why didn't you guys, or was it just bad systems?
There was a bad admin system at the church. And so then he pitched up again, and I was like, oh no, we lost his details. And then, yeah. But the rest is pretty accurate.
And then I broke my golden rule. So when you date, so this is for anyone who's ever dated, so my ding was just, jy sê nie vir 'n girl jy's lief vir haar binne die eerste jaar nie.
Oh my gosh, okay,
Like,
so before we started dating, he had so many rules, like he knew everything. And he's like, yeah, but I have a golden rule, like I know that you shouldn't say I love you before 4 months.
No, it was like at least not within the first year.
Yeah, anyway, he had so many like rules that, because he's like this dating expert. But he was single for like 8 years before that. But anyway.
I've dated one girl in my life, like in
Other
matric.
than me.
Like, yeah, letterlijk, soos ek het,
And he
almal het
gave
iemand in
all
matriek-
his friends dating advice. And I'm like, did they know you were single for so long? He's like, it was by choice. It was by choice.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I know that's what you
so
would
toe
say.
breek ek my golden rules soos 3 maande en ek's lief vir jou, jy weet, so.
He's like, I love you. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
But then I had my one rule, it's like, hoor jy so, as mense, en ek weet glad nie met wie ek praat in die kamer, maar as jy vir 10 jaar al uitgaan, soos, maak 'n besluit, jy weet, soos jy kan nie vir 10 jaar uitgaan nie. En ek het altyd gesê, ek en my suster, ek was soos, hoor jy, na 2 jaar, het jy al die beklei wat jy al beklei het. So, jy moet of weet, ek gaan nog steeds met jou beklei en by jou stuk, of ek is klaar gebeklei en I'm out of here. So, toe het ons letterlik op 2 jaar, toe was dit soos
Well,
okay.
you knew within the first 4 months. Like you know.
Yeah, I knew, but I was still like 2 years then I got engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were a student.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
have any money, so ek kon nie 'n ring bekostig nie.
It was bad.
Maar jy gebruik 'n keyring.
Nee, ek het toe so die great ding van dit is ook sodra jy jou intentions, jy weet, jy soos hoorie so. Ons het van die begin af was dit soos dating was nie vir ons en vir ons altyd want ons was single gewees. Ek dink you were single for 6 years, I was single for 8 years. Ons het altyd net 'n matriek met iemand uitgegaan. Want in matriek moet jy met iemand uitgaan. Dis soos jy kan nie deur die skool loop gaan en nie met iemand uitgaan nie. En so daai tyd toe sê ek soos okay, toe ons mekaar ontmoet, is dit soos hoorie so as ek gaan uitgaan, besoek jou met jy weet uitgaan en ek maak nie soos uitgaan is hektiek nie, want uitgaan is uitgaan. As jy uitgaan en dit werk jy uit, maar ons was net op daai stadium soos hoorie so ons wil nie rondspeel met mekaar se hart nie. Ek het volgens as ons enigstens games begin met mekaar speel, I'm not here to play games. Dit is soos altyd voete in. Kom ons besoek, kom ons doen dit reg. Kom ons gaan nie opmors nie. Is niks rondslapery, niks dit nie. Dit is net soos ons wil vir Jesus in die middel hou en ons gaan dit reg doen en wanneer jou intensies jy weet daar uitsit dan en jy sê vir mense hoorie so en jy het ook in die kerk het jy ouens en mense en mentors en jy sê soos jy sê ek gaan hierdie girl trou en ek wil jy weet verloof raak en so het mense want dis maar net hoe jou Christen gemeenskap rondom jou kom en hulle sê oh man hier's soos dit jy weet ons wil jou bless ek sal vir jou jy weet haar ma was soos ek moes omtrent stop om vir my jy weet diamante te kry en goud en sy sê ja hier's haar ouma se dit en ek kan hierdie vir jou smelt ek sê okay wag let's go maar die ding is as jy die skoon ouers oorwen dan sy pretty much
Ja, absoluut.
maar ons digress completely oor vra vir ons vra.
Classic, okay, vra ons vra. Voor ons in die vrae gaan, ek dink ons het nou 'n nice prentjie met wie ons gesels. Ons het so ietsie wat ons wil doen met julle, net om te weet wat julle keuses in lewens is. So ons gaan 'n bietjie dis of that speel. Ek hou van 'n game van dis of that. Ons gaan begin by die groot moments. Ek weet of julle die songs ken nie, maar
Ja. Easy.
Graves.
Elevation.
Well, they're both great. They're both great.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We just destroyed that song in our church, I think.
Yeah, that song came out and we sang it every
it.
day 50 times.
We
Maar
sang it
vandag
at
was die
home.
beste wat ek al ooit gehoor het. So
Yeah,
that's amazing.
sure.
Oh, wow.
But we do just like, yeah, they're both awesome.
Ja, of course, Graves in the Gardens. Kom ons gaan weer volgende, ons kyk wat is volgende. Oh, ek weet nie of julle
Friends.
The Office.
Mense probeer ons
I like The Office.
Yeah, but they always pump me to watch it, but I have never watched The Office.
I don't think you have the patience to watch
I
it.
don't.
You don't watch series.
I don't
I
watch
mean, you need
series.
to
So.
get through season 1 in The Office at least.
Ek het Friends gekyk omdat dit op Mnet ooptyd kyk was back in the day.
Before, like, after
Ja,
Dolly.
jy het daai 1 uur verniet gekry, dis die goalie en dan Friends.
En dan die bok game of die WP Currie Cup game.
Ja, iemand.
Op Saterdag, ja.
So sy kyk shows, ek kyk regtig shows, ek's meer soos
Okay, nice. Okay, so
like-
that's The Office and Friends, okay? Volgende enetjie, kom ons kyk. Okay, obviously ek dink dis 'n maklike.
Netflix.
Ja,
Netflix. Ek gaan
Showmax
series-
every now and then kom deur.
Ja. Baie man.
Bye, man.
Jo, baie man. Is dit ooit nog daar? Volgende enetjie. Oh, groot een.
Yeah, okay.
Coke Zero.
Coke, ja, okay.
Ons huis is vol Coke Zero.
Ja, Pepsi, ek weet nie wat met Pepsi. Wat is Pepsi?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Instagram.
Yeah. Instagram.
Oh, no. Yeah, Instagram.
That's all I watch is YouTube.
He doesn't watch series, he watches YouTube. It drives me insane.
Okay, nice. But do you watch TikTok these days? Are you quite involved? Just a watcher or not?
No, I don't have it.
No, I've tried to put like a boundary not to watch it because some of my friends watch it and they're like, oh my gosh, I was up till like 1 a.m. just watching tons of videos. And
Jy
I was
kan nie
like,
nog 'n social media ding kry nie. Soos al ons young adults is op TikTok, so ek was so dan gaan ek dit nie doen nie. So they can keep me updated.
yeah, they keep us updated, like we know. We
You
know
can't
what's
have
happening.
another thing.
They send us
Know the
stuff all the
flaws.
time.
You know everything that's happening.
Yeah,
Nou is soos Netflix en dan Instagram en dan check
No, it's too
Facebook
much.
en dan moet jy TikTok ook kyk en dan dan is jou dag verby.
Okay, hier is die Elevation Worship of United.
Ons moet United.
Yo, I do love them. They're my originals.
Ja, dit is soos vir ons nie net omdat ons hulle ken nie, maar ook
Ja.
omdat dit was soos vir my ook toe ek saved geraak het was. Soos almal het hulle saved song. Weet hulle 'n saved song, jy weet.
Or album.
Ja, soos toe ek kerk toe gekom het was Cornerstone soos die song.
Cornerstone, one way.
Ja, so vir Maddie Crocker en Jad en ons het eintlik vir my 30ste verjaarsdag was ons in Sydney gewees. En toe al soos toe ek saved geraak het was Jad en Maddie Crocker soos my guys. Soos hulle is die album wat ek geluister het.
Yes, die
En toe
Pink CD van United.
Ja.
Julle het ons gesoek in die Pink CD van United.
En toe my 30ste verjaarsdag het ons eintlik almal toe was ons almal saam gewees. Het sy georganiseer het hulle almal vir my sing vir my verjaarsdag en alles. Ek sê
Classic.
see
Yeah, the whole
it
band
all
was
came
singing
together.
I'm like, just remember, that's the best video.
Yeah, she keeps reminding me best
Oh,
of gift. What did I get you? I got you a
My
dog.
30ste verjaarsdag, hoor.
Hey?
Nee, geen pressure op my 30ste verjaarsdag. It's this month.
Ons kan iets organise. Weet jy met wie nie?
Oh, Adidas.
Adidas, easy.
Adidas, yes. Really, Adidas?
Ja.
Oh, yeah.
Dis al wat ons doen.
You definitely say.
No, like we have too
Definitely
much of
say
it.
I don't know how much pizza you eat, but
Never debonaise, so Romans.
Romans, never Japanese.
Oh,
Alright, so between your friends,
Vir wisse kwaad op die oomblik. Ja. Ek sal sê wel, ons het nou net daaroor gepraat, want ons moet nou vir die Sharks, ons is stormers through and through.
Yes.
Maar speel op die oomblik teen mekaar, so ek weet nie wat se skoor nie.
shame.
Ja,
Okay, oh, you did.
ja, dit was iets anders.
Shame.
Nee, hulle is altyd awesome.
Joe
Black,
Justin
Justin
Bieber.
Ek het nog nooit vir Joe Black is hy so, ek weet nie. Ek het nog nooit na hom
I
geluister.
love the Beebs.
Oh, yeah, we love the
He's on
Beebs.
such a journey. That
Love
journey.
the Biebs.
Ons het
He's
veel
on
Justin
such a
Bieber
journey.
storie, maar ons sal dit op 'n ander dag vertel.
Okay,
What's
nice.
that one?
Alright, so this or that.
Oh, she wants a girl.
I want a girl.
I don't care.
I'll be pumped with whatever. I'll be pumped with whatever. But
Nice.
Yeah, use your mic.
I think I'm like speaking through yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
No,
a live
I
stream, so
yeah, I want to go, but I mean, just a healthy baby is probably good.
okay, perfect. Nice. I think that's that.
Oh,
Thanks, guys.
yeah.
Classic. Nice.
Classic. Daai's definitief jou favorite word.
Okay, funny word.
Classic of awesome. Classic.
I say classic a lot.
Yeah, you also say classic.
Classic. Kom ons gaan in die questions in wat ons voorberei het wat ek dink baie vir ons gaan
There are so many there.
help. There are so many.
See, he's got
Yeah.
laminated ones. Ek sê nou net soos ons doen conferences, ek het nog nooit 'n laminated question.
Talk about
We are not
organizing.
strong on admin.
Ons ek het 'n
That's our
awesome
thing.
team wat hierdie goed vir my doen en ek dink sonder hulle sou dit nie gebeur het in elk geval. Ek sou ook nou gou my laptop uitgekry, copy paste WhatsApp web, paste na my eie WhatsApp toe
Ja.
en dan so gewerk het. So dankie tog vir 'n team wat dit kon regkry. Maar die questions wat baie daar's baie as ons deur alles gaan is dit alright as ons nie deur alles gaan nie. Maar ek wil 'n bietjie gesels oor leadership. Nou dit klink baie weird want baie van ons hier binne is nie noodwendig in 'n leadership posisie nie. Some of us aren't in a leadership position. We're just here or we're just there. But some of us are in a leadership position, whether it is regarding your business or regarding your ministry, or like I said, no one. Are you still a leader in some kind of way, saying that you're a leader or not? If you're a leader or not? What does the word leader mean?
If you're a leader or not. Do you want to answer? I'll start off with, so everybody is born a leader because first of all, you were made with a value, you were made with an identity, and you were made to first of all lead yourself because leadership starts off with leading yourself. Like you wouldn't be here if you didn't lead yourself. You wouldn't be here if you didn't know how to make choices. If you're here today, you've made some good choices in your life and will continue to make good choices. All of us make bad choices, but this is like leadership starts with leading yourself. And then so most of us, and this is probably the Sophie, nie 'n pet peeve nie, maar dis so die ding met leadership wat almal is soos dit moet 'n titel wees of jy weet ek ek gaan hierdie doen, jy weet, as iemand vir my sê, ek kan nou Kenneth se job doen, ek sal dit crush, jy weet, en jy weet, jy het altyd iemand wat in 'n seat sit en sê, ek kan iets beter doen, maar hulle het nog nooit iets self gedoen nie, jy weet, soos, ons bevind onsself in leierskapposisies, omdat ek het I saw a need, and I fulfilled it. So leierskap is om die ability om iets te kan sien, waar daar verandering moet kom, en om iets te doen daaroor. En dit begin nie, jy weet, en ek praat net van 'n groot kerkleierskap of 'n besigheid, maar dit begin met jouself. Jy het probleme in jou eie lewe gesien en jy het gesê, hoor hier moet ek 'n verskil maak. En jy het daar 'n verskil begin maak en dit vloei altyd oor na die volgende ding toe. So dit vloei dan oor na jou vriende toe en jy sê, man, ek sien my vriende struggle met dit. Ek sien hulle is hierso en 'n leier is iemand wat gaan, hoor hierso, ek sien jy het hulp nodig en ek gaan jou help. Soos Jesus was die grootste example, you know, ek is hier om te serve. So leierskap begin met servanthood en ek dink die grootste probleem wat ons het met leierskap, ons dink dit is op 'n platform. Soos jy kan nie I am not my gift. So in die sense of soos ek het dalk ons het dalk 'n talent om te kan praat of wat ook al. Maar ek is nie hierdie ou wanneer ek tussen mense is nie. Dan is ek jy weet jy serve en jy sit met mense, jy luister na mense, jy doen tyd. So meeste mense dink hulle sien 1% van jou lewe hulle soos dis 'n leier. En ek dink my leierskap is 99% as ek nie op is nie. Wat doen ek as niemand na my kyk nie? Wat doen ek op my eie tyd? Wat doen ek, jy weet, ek spandeer my tyd om te dink aan ander mense. En ek is soos, hoe kan ek my, you know, my Young Adults Generation, soos die mense wat ek moet steward, wat kan ek doen om hulle te serve? En dis wat leierskap is. En met dit groei jy influence. So, want ek dink as mense begin trust, ek dink leierskap is influence. En hoe meer mense jou trust en jou ken, hoe meer gaan hulle sê, hoorie so, ek wil hoor wat jy te sê het. Soos, Kenneth, kan jy my help? Dit lyk asof jy iets weet, jy weet. Ek weet niks nie, maar ek het nou invloed en ek kan in jou lewe inspreek. So dis wat ek dink leierskap is.
Yeah, and I think it says like strength, in the Bible it says strength is for serving, not status.
Yeah.
And I think people think that to be a leader is to get a platform and to have this kind of, I don't know, strength and power that you can dominate over other people and tell people what to do. And like you said, it's actually about servanthood. And so if you flip it around, you start going, okay, leadership is something different. But I definitely do agree, it's a choice. So when I was younger, I was 18 and I joined the youth ministry and somebody said, do you want to be a youth leader? Now I was so shy. I was like, I barely spoke and I was like, that is hilarious. Are you kidding me? Like, what am I going to do in a youth ministry as a leader? Like, do I have to speak? Do I have to do anything? Anyway, and I kept going there for years and years and I would sit in leadership meetings and I was called the leader. And it was only a few years later that I actually realized I was sitting in all those meetings and I never once for a second thought I was a leader. Like, I did not see myself as one. I was like, I'm just sitting here. Actually, everyone around me, probably the person speaking is the leader, and then I don't know why I'm here. And one day it just snapped, and I went, okay, you have influence over the 5 kids that look up to you. And it's not hectic, and it's not this massive thing, but I can shape their lives. And as soon as I realized that everything I was doing, they were watching, and that's what influence and leadership was. It wasn't about these big moments. It was about how I lived my life. And when I realized that it has very little to do with platform, very little to do with the amount of people that you look after. It's actually how you live your life. That's being a leader. And I think anybody can take ownership, but it is a choice. And you have to click one day and go, okay, I am one. Because nobody else can make that choice for you. They can tell you you're a leader, but if you do not believe it, you won't be one. Yeah.
And I think, ek sal sê, die grootste limitation vir meeste mense is net dis daai switch in jou kop, daai conference of vir my was dit conference, en ek het letterlik, toe ek saved geraak het die dag, toe sit asof God net vir my sê, hoorie so, hy het value in my ingespreek, en toe die volgende dag, toe sê ek soos letterlik, en ek sal 'n voorbeeld gebruik, so, as jy weet, almal weer die Afrikaanse kultuur, jy weet, so ons is soos, wie's gewoonlik die leiers, gewoonlik die grootste ou, of die ou wat die laatste is, of jy weet, dis so ons baie keer ons leiers kies, ons is, ja, daai is dit, jy weet, so hy moet die leier wees, en ek het saved geraak, en letterlik 'n week later is ek soos, okay, ek sien die kultuur in ons span is, jy weet, nie waar ek het wil hê nie. Dis God soos wel, hoekom daag jy nie op net met 'n bietjie meer energie nie, hoekom daag jy nie op om 'n paar ouens net te encourage nie, en toe ek dit doen, dis so asof God net vir my 'n conference gegee het om te doen, en dit is snaaks, letterlik 'n week later toe hulle soos, okay, Wessel, jy's nou die kaptein van die span.
Yeah, you started serving in church, and literally a week later, you became the captain.
Ja, en toe sit letterlik, en dit is vir my die funny ding, het was, God sit dit in jou, maar dis wanneer jy daai besluit maak, dan unlock hy dit in jou.
Or you come into a culture or
Ja,
environment.
dis definitief 'n kultuur van gaan, hoor jy so, ek gee nie eintlik om wat mense oor my dink nie, ek wil hulle serve, ek wil inkom en encouraging wees, ek wil inkom en 'n energie bring. So baie mense dink, ek gaan nie energie bring as ek hier is. As ek op die platform is, ek gaan nie energie begin bring, ek gaan mense begin encourage, ek gaan dit doen sodra ek hier is.
Sure.
En vir my was dit soos, ek gaan dit doen terwyl ek daar sit, want hierdie ouens is die ouens wat die encouragement nodig het, en toe ek dit doen, toe hulle soos, okay, wel, kom lei ons. En dis toe ek daai realization kry van, man, God het dit eintlik altyd in jou gesit, hy wil net gehad dat jy mis mense serve. En want hy elevate jou waar hy wil hê, maar ja, so jy lig mense op en God lig vir jou op, so dis maar net hoe dit werk.
Ek wil, I just want to stick on that word also because leadership obviously equals influence. And I actually want to ask, can I influence the people around me without scaring them or being influenced by them? Just a picture about how does that look like, because we obviously live in a time where we're really focused on our image, I can say like that. So we don't want to, we have a passion to come to church, we have a passion to be here, we're excited to come, but the moment we say, okay, please invite someone or influence them with your light that we are talking about the whole time. How do we do that without scaring them? Because the moment you talk about the Bible, people always like also, ja, ons praat nou oor die Bybel, die man. Of, jy weet, ons praat nou oor die Bybel, die man. Of, yeah, so just a picture of the influence you can have without.
Talk about your friend from WCG that years later.
Ja, so laat ek hierdie storie vertel. So soos om dit te doen is jy wil nie weird wees, so jy moet ek weet waar jy is. So my eerste
read the room.
Ja, read the room. Dis wat die Heilige Gees gee vir jou discernment. So jy gaan ook nie in 'n bar inloop en gaan turn or burn nie, jy weet. Dit werk net nie, want almal is soos die mense is nie daar om regtig.
Wat soek jy in 'n bar?
Ja, ek bedoel as die rugby aan is as ek daar. Maar die ding is so, praat oor die bar. Ek moes op daai stadium, baie keer in jou lewe, veral as jy nuut is in hierdie journey, moet jy besef wat is jou grootste jy weet downfalls. So vir my was dit soos die hele kuierkultuur en soos jy weet as jy drink wil jy rook en as jy begin rook en begin na meisies kyk en jy weet al hierdie goedes is so half bou op mekaar. So ek was in my eerste jaar toe ek hierdie besluit gemaak het, was ek soos okay, ek moet 'n paar boundaries insit. Want ek is nie sterk genoeg om dit te handhaaf nie. En dan moes ek tweedens goeie vriende kry wat nie die hele tyd gaan bar toe gaan of nie die hele tyd dieselfde goed gaan doen wat my opgetrip het nie. En dit het so half ek het gedink dit gaan die ouens wegdruk, maar eintlik was dit toe ek het 'n klomp vriende wat gekry het soos ons het almal saam gebly in die koshuis of swat. Ja, so daar was twee tipe mense. Daar was party ons wat gaan sing Wessel is aan hierdie Christen en hy doen nou niks meer met ons nie, soos hulle hou op om jou te invite na parties toe en so en ek was soos okay, cool, ek wil daai boundary insit, hulle sit dit nou vir myself daar. En dan was daar 'n groep van vriende wat nou nog my beste vriende is wat was soos man, ek het nog nooit die conference gehad om letterlik teen die stroom te gaan nie. En nou omdat jy gaan, is toes hulle almal soos man, kan ons saam met jou kom. En so het ons 'n groep van 5-6 vriende wat nou nog, jy weet, great vriende is, wat net daai tyd het hulle besluit, okay, omdat hy dit kan doen, gaan ons dit saam met hom doen. Maar so hulle storie later, soos jy weet daar's iemand wat jy net weet, jy soos die dude gaan nooit na Jesus toe kom nie. Soos hy is die most outspoken oor die Wessel is nou 'n Christen en hy drink nie meer saam met ons nie, soos hy doen nie meer dit nie, sulke goeie en ek soos okay, maar en hy was ook soos hy was classic, hy was altyd ons rugby kaptein want hy is eintlik net die loudste, jy weet so. En ek is soos dude, jy gaan fine wees, jy's amazing, So vir 3 jaar terug, so dit is nou letterlik 10 jaar of 9, 8 jaar later. Bel die ou my en hy soos Wessel, jy weet, ek en my meisie, ons wil nou verloof raak en ons wil trou en ek het nie 'n klou hoe om dit te doen nie, want ek weet nie eers hoe my eie lewe te hanteer nie. Hoe gaan ek hierdie vrou inbring en alles goed doen? Kan jy met my sit? En ons gaan van Durban af afvlieg. Hy is 'n dokter daarbo en hy vlieg af en hy kom sit met ons een Sondag en ons chat deur alles en ek is soos Jesus 8 jaar terug was hierdie ou die grootste ou wat gesê het, net nog 'n Christen ou wat niks wil doen en dit en ek was soos ek ten minste secure genoeg. Ek was altyd soos dude, ek gee nie eintlik om wat mense vir my sê nie. Hierdie soos ek is sold out vir dit en ek weet God het 'n beter plan vir my. En 8 jaar later en hy's een van seker baie, so ek kan seker op 2 hande tel van ouens wat nou nog van plekke af vlieg om my te kom ontmoet en sê, man, ek het geken op universiteit, ek weet waarvoor jy staan, kan jy my deur hierdie goeders chat?
Do you remember when you went to that one reunion and everybody started like lining up to chat to you?
Ja,
like
ek
counseling
was by
sessions.
my reunie van die universiteit en ek gaan nooit na reunies toe nie, want dit is eintlik vir my super awkward en maar hierdie een was God net so half, man, gaan wees daar, drink 'n bier saam met die boys en ons het soos 'n ek weet nie of jy op Stellenbosch al was en elke kos het hulle eie bar en ek loop al aan en almal weet ek's 'n pastoor en dit is soos klaar, hulle noem my dominee want ek dink julle verken nie
hulle doen
die verskil ja, hulle soos ja die dominee en ek sê okay, it's amazing. En ek gaan in die bar en ek sê ja, ek kry vir my 'n bier en ek staan nou en drink 'n bier saam met almal en hulle sê, drink jy bier? Ek is soos ek love 'n bier, ou. Soos en so het hulle dit sal ek nou sê oor daai organiese, nie om weird te wees nie. Soos ek het aan die begin moes ek limits insit omdat ek sterk genoeg was hier. Ek het gemature, God het goeders gedoen in my lewe. Nou kan ek in plekke ingaan en sterk genoeg wees en myself wees. En so het daai conversations gelei dat, jy weet, ek kan 'n bier drink saam met die boys en hulle nou ook omdat hulle almal my ken. As die een ou kom van hy sê, man, ek het 'n cocaine addiction. Ek sê, what? Soos hoe en hy sê, ja, onthou ons het altyd weed gerook, jy weet, daarso en ek kon nie daai shake nie en nou sê ek soos ek het een van die top jobs in Kaapstad, maar ek het 'n complete cocaine addiction om my energie te handhaaf van wat ek moet doen en die volgende en so spandeer ek 5 ure by my eie reunie in die een hoek van die bar en chat. Jy weet almal deur hulle goeters en ek sê soos man, Jesus is lewendig en hy het goeders in my lewe gedoen en hy is besig om te doen in hierdie ouens se lewe en jy plant net so saadjies en ons job is nie om mense saved te kry en dis God se job. Ons job is om, jy weet, saadjies te plant en vir mense hoop te gee en vir iemand net ietsie te los wat hulle mee gaan uitstap en ek is soos ek weet God bring ander, ek is nie die enigste mens nie. Soos vandag connect ek met jou, maar God gaan iemand inbring wat môre 'n conversation met jou gaan hê en dit gaan net so gaan. En baie keer ons sê altyd by Hillsong Kerk en ons het net daar gepraat soos ek het baie mense wat in Kaapstad is vir 'n jaar of 2 en ons kan net soveel saadjies plant soos wat ons kan, maar ek beloof jou die harvest is massive waar ook al hulle gaan en ek hoop daar's mense wat van ons kerk af kom wat hiernatoe gaan kom en julle gaan die harvest reap van wat ons daai kant gedoen het en vice versa. Soos ek glo daar's mense wat hier deur die kerk kom en julle plant saadjies en hulle kom Kaap toe en ons harvest weer wat julle gedoen het hierso en dis hoe dit werk en dis net om jy het vandag gepreek uit Matthew 5 and my favorite scripture is Matthew 5 verse 16 wat sê it's actually through your good works that they will get to know your Father in heaven. Deur om net jouself te wees, gaan mense weet wie God is. So jy wil jou beste self wees, sodat mense die beste God kan sien, jy weet. So wees jouself, God het jou gemaak soos wat jy is, maar jy moet eers God ken, en let's go, dan verander jy dis influence. Soos ek, sorry as ek te lank praat, kan ek nog 'n storie vertel?
Ja.
So, ons het eendag in 'n kar toe 'n vrou sê net vir my, hoorie, so sy prophesy net so oor my lewe. En ek het glad nie, ek het nie vir Sia geken, ek het nie vir Faf, ek het glad nie hierdie ouens, jy weet, persoonlike connections gehad en sy prophesy oor my lewe, hoorie, so jy gaan 'n lewe van influence hê. En op daai stadium was ek soos ek serve in die kerk. Ek is net soos die ou wat die stoele ronddra en ek ry mense rond, gaste en dit en ek sê net soos ek sien om te serve. Letterlik die volgende jaar kom sy vlieg terug van Australië af, sy oversee Hillsong United en sy soos, oh ja, what's happening? Ek sê soos, ja, onthou jy wat jy geprophesied oor my lewe? Soos, ek in nou connect group en jy weet, ek en Faf en Sia, ek weet nie, jy sal nie weet wie hulle is nie, maar hulle is altyd die national captains en jy weet, ek praat in hulle lewe in en dit en dit is letterlik oor 'n jaar, maar ek het nie 'n platform gehad, ek het nie gepreek in ons kerk elke Sondag, ek nie dit, maar dit was net soos, ek het aanhou doen wat ek hier gedoen het en God het invloed gebring en net God kan daai deure oopmaak. Soos ek het
and
nie
people kept speaking that you would bring out the gold in people, and I think you didn't need the platform for that. Everybody can bring out the gold in somebody else, and that's literally all he did. He brought out the gold in people, and it opened doors, I guess.
Ja, so jou platform is waar jy is. Jou platform is letterlik, wat doen jy met die mense naby jou? En omdat jy jouself is, soos daai dudes wil nie hoor oor hulle het 'n great game gehad. Hulle is soos letterlik kom in en soos Wessel, help my met my huwelik.
Ja.
Jy weet, en omdat hulle dit kan sing in ons lewe en nie omdat ek dit gaan verkondig het nie, maar net oor hoe ons gelewe het en net normaal was en encouraging en altyd serving. So die ding is, as dit kom by mense, ons dink altyd ons kop is one-sided, dis altyd twee. Jy wil, dit is maar die selfishness van ons, is soos, Kenneth, ek gaan jou serve vandag, maar dit beteken jy gaan môre iets vir my teruggee. En dis nie hoe God se kingdom werk nie. Soos ek het nog altyd mense geserve, ek wil niks van jou af hê nie. Soos dit is die ding en dan bring God net, jy weet dit altyd terug na die ander kant toe en dit ons serve nie die blessing nie, maar you know the blesser. So dit is soos ek wil mense bless. Ek gaan altyd ander mense oplig, ek gaan altyd na hulle kyk en so werk God maar net, jy weet die invloed rondom jou uit.
Daai is insane. Ons gaan definitief nou 'n bietjie praat oor daai gedeelte ook. Ek weet baie van ons sit met hierdie ding van om nie worthy, ek voel nie worthy om enigiets te lei nie. Ek voel nie worthy om eers net 'n influence te wees in my vriendegroep nie. Ek het dalk te veel seer, ek het dalk te veel staf wat aangaan in my lewe. Ek het dalk die leiding nodig. Uit daai perspektief uit daai posisie uit of even ek het hierdie skaamte, ek's 'n introvert dalk of so, kan jy nog steeds hoe embrace jy daai seisoen om deur dit te breek, want obviously influence moet uit 'n plek van confidence inkom, uit 'n plek van so hoe bou jy dit weer op as jy glad nie worthy voel om dit te doen nie, om daai persoon te wees wat nou 'n leier moet wees nie.
Tell him, babe.
I was going to say, it was kind of what I touched on, because I'm an introvert through and through. Like, I could not, okay, so this is, God does stuff in you. That's the bottom line. So when I joined church, I grew up Christian, but I didn't understand that I was living very small. Like, there's a wide open, expansive life, and Paul speaks about it. And as Christians, we should live wide open and expansive. And I love that scripture, especially in the Message translation. But I realized I was living very small. So I had like a small mindset. I had very limited mindsets about like, this is what a Christian is. And I was limiting God. And like, who am I to limit God? But I was. And a lot of us do. And so when I actually came into church, into Hillsong, there were a lot of people that were living quite big and confident and like expansive lives. And they opened up my eyes to like, oh, you can have fun and be a Christian, and you can be confident, but not like in yourself, just like this freedom that I'd never felt because I was so scared of what people thought of me. I was so shy. I was so scared of rejection. I guess it's how I grew up, but there was something that needed to happen in me, and I knew people had it there that I didn't, and I needed to have it. I knew I wanted it, and so I went on a journey. And it's not like it's a literal constant decision to go, God, I feel very awkward in this situation. I feel very shy in this situation. I want to step back or draw back in this situation. But that, like I said, I started serving in the youth ministry, and it was insane. Like 2 weeks into it, they were getting me up to speak at conferences, and there was like 1,000 people in the room, and they're like, okay, pray. I'm like, I've never prayed out loud in my life, let alone on a platform, let alone on a mic. And I was like, this is insane. But I was like, okay, the answer is yes. And I spoke, and at the time it was like Rach, and I was like, Rachel was the youth pastor at that time, and I said, what are you making me do? And she's like, just say yes, and you'll be surprised where God takes you. And I'm like, okay, yes, like I'll do it. And I literally fought that fear every single Friday. When I would preach on Fridays, I would lose the plot, but I would do it because I realized it wasn't about me. So I started going on this journey that I realized that it wasn't about me, and if I took my eyes off myself for 2 seconds, I'd realize it's about people and it's about God. And I was actually selfish. Every time I was like quiet or introverted or thinking something, it was because I was in myself. I was thinking too much of myself. And we don't see it like that, but it is actually essentially what it is. And so I went on this journey where I would keep saying yes. I would keep pitching up, like I'd keep turning up. I'd keep coming to things. Every time somebody asked me to do something, everything in me wanted to say no, and I would say yes. I kept stepping out. I kept doing stuff that was totally uncomfortable, like nothing. And then people would be like, oh, you're so natural. And I'm like, well, I'm dying inside, so I'm glad that's how it looks. But still, like, I mean, and then it goes, God takes you on a journey, and sometimes it gets easier, but the bottom line is that God does a work in you. And so later on, I saw some of my school friends, maybe like 5 years later, and they're like, you are really different. And I'm like, oh, why? And they're like, no, you just like, you aren't like, you're just different. And they couldn't, I mean, I knew what it was, but I just had a godly confidence that I was like, it doesn't actually matter what people think. Like, I don't serve man, I serve God. And that's a different confidence. Like, when you can get there, but it's a decision. Like, you have to take your eyes off yourself. And, yeah, that's what I'd...
Yes, because God takes off the labels, because we all grow up with, like, you labeled as something.
Yeah.
You would grow up like, hey, you're a...
And the more people say you're shy, the
Yeah,
more you go,
you
it's
are
okay
shy, or
not
you're
to do that
this,
because I'm
or-
shy. So, yeah.
And God makes you the full you, so you can start looking outside of the box people have placed you in. And the biggest thing we want to do as Christians is put ourselves in a box, and it gets comfortable, and okay, I'll subscribe to this box, this label they've put me in. And God just actually, when He speaks about expansive life, He opens up your life, and He says, hey, you are more than what people have said about you. Even if they said good about you, they'll be like, oh, you're funny, and now you're just like the class clown the whole time. And it's like, that's great, but God made you funny, but also to change lives, and even to be introvert. Like, there's nothing wrong with being an introvert.
I was going to say, there's no cookie cutter. So it's not like for a leader, you need to be this, 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 and this. There is no such thing. So if I'm an introvert, I'm still an introvert. That just means I recharge by myself. Like, that's how I get my energy. That's fine. Like, that's not a sin. I will say that I'm not going to be shy. Like, because shy is something like you're scared to talk to me. Oh, this is the funniest thing. This is what I'm going to tell you. So I remember vividly when I was younger, I would have fights with my mom because we grew up in like quite a traditional church, and I needed to say like hello to everyone. Like it's so rude I agree, but like it's so rude if you don't say hello to the pastor, or, say hello to this tani and this woman and this guy. And I had to like say hello very loudly, like, hello. And, but I was so shy that for whatever reason, I hated meeting new people, and I could not say hello. Like, I sometimes would say hello, but it would be so quiet and under my breath because I was just like dying. And I remember my mom would be like, why, it's so rude, like, why didn't you say hello to those people, like, over and over again. I mean, till my teenage years, probably my whole high school, my primary school, my high school. Anyway, I joined church, right? I'm a youth leader, and on Sundays, where would we serve? We serve on a team that's on the doors, and the door team is called the hello team. I served on that maybe for 2 years. Yeah. Every single 6 p.m. service, which probably has about 1,500 people in, and everybody had to come through that door. So I would say hello to 1,500 people every single Sunday for like 2 years. And I just thought, like, God has a sense of humor. I was brilliant at the end of it, but I just laughed because I was like,
hello.
I was like, that was my one thing that I remember, like, I would get, like, grounded for. Like, it's so strange because my mom couldn't handle it. And it's the one thing that I thought, like, how funny is God that He takes this, like, weakness, this insecurity, this, like, the shame of, like, I don't know, this label of something, and He turned it completely around. And we did doors for, like, ever. Probably longer than 2 years. We still do it, never mind. But it was called the hello team at that point, and I went, this is too good. Like, you can't make that stuff up. You can't make that stuff up. Yeah, anyway, there's no such thing.
I quickly want to talk about it's my famous English word, classic. You need to have one.
I'll give you another one. You can say incredible.
Incredible.
Beautiful.
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 No, don't say that. That's fine.
Beautiful. It depends to who you say, probably.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yo, I see that.
There we go.
I quickly want to talk about, you touched on a few things that I actually want to go into a conversation with regarding being there every Sunday. Now, it's probably going to be a very sensitive topic for us as people in this church at this moment also, going to church every Sunday. But before we go into that convo about how important church is, I quickly also want to talk about or ask you, the role of the local church. What is it supposed to look like? Or, because obviously if we say come to church, what is supposed to be the local church? Because this is our local church. And if you just can give us a picture about the role of a local church.
The role of the church. I think it starts with you are the church, and this is the gathering place. And God did say, do not neglect gathering together as much as you can. And all the koinonia, the fellowship, it's stuff that we only realize for us over this lockdown, how much we've missed that real fellowship, that real okay, we're getting in, we're worshiping together. And we love and we do champion online church as well. I think there's room for both. And we were speaking about that because I'm like, there's a reach that we've never had when it comes to reaching people through online church. But if you have the privilege of being close to a local church, man, there's nothing like getting into this room. Because, first of all, it's for you, but it's also for people who need to come in. Because we always, there's so much I can say about this. But I've truly... Yeah, we'll say. But one of the guys who came to our church, and he was like, you know what? The problem is if there's not empty bottles and cigarettes outside the door, you're just washing the same people. And we don't want to just see mature people in our church. We actually want to see broken people come into our church. We want to see people who needs to be restored, who needs to be healed, who needs to get saved. That is the role of the local church, for people to be like, this is a safe harbor, this is a hospital, this is people need to know when I see you guys that this is a safe place. When our church is like massive welcome home, because we want people to just be like, you can be yourself. Bring your drink in if you still have a drinking habit. Be a part of it, because we truly believe that once you're in this room and you're in fellowship, this is where the Holy Spirit does what we cannot do. And and also a scripture that I say a lot is, bear this one day in your house and 1,000 elsewhere. Now, think of this. One day in the house of God is better than 1,000 days anywhere else. That's more than 3 years. So what I can achieve in 3 years on my own, walking the streets saying, come to Jesus, will not have the same effect as me coming to church for one day. Because what we get to do here right now is, I told Kenneth, this will be the biggest room we ever speak to, because you guys are the people of influence. You guys are the people in Worcester who decided to be here today. So that means you guys have a sphere of influence that we can never get to. So if we get to impart something in your life right now, this is going to flow into 1,000 other people's lives. And this is the role of the church. If we didn't get together, gather today and on a Sunday and worship and realign yourself and be a part of something and serve someone, like some people, we have people writing in praise reports saying like, man, I've never had someone smile at me who doesn't know me. And this is why this is my house. And this is why, it's like the simplest thing.
The funny thing is they won't remember the message.
People don't remember us.
People don't come back for the message.
You think you were up here because you brought an incredible message, or the MC crushed it and the worship leader. It's like, no, people always remember the people of the church they met.
The conversation they had.
The conversation, or like literally remembering names, or like the free coffee. Like as a student, I came back to church because there was free coffee and cookies. I was like, I didn't have money for it, so let's go. But in that, if that is like, we do everything to attract people. So I said the first time I came to Hillsong Church, I was attracted because of the packaging. I could see the albums, I could see the lights and the this, and that attracted me. But the only thing that made me stay was the people and the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And if you guys aren't here, nobody's going to get saved. If you aren't serving, there's no space for the Holy Spirit to move. You guys, when we start uttering the words of Jesus, calling out His name, inviting the Holy Spirit, that's when God starts working.
Come on.
And what was the previous conversation we had about just being uncomfortable?
Yes,
but it's uncomfortable to serve sometimes.
Yes.
But it's in that place when you start taking ownership. And I say this to my team, and I go like, listen, what do you guys do when I'm not here? Then they're like, we come an hour. Like Kenneth is like, I'm on holiday today. And then suddenly 2 people here says like, okay, we'll own it today. And then suddenly that Sunday, they're going to come an hour earlier, and they're going to check that the seats is more perfect than ever, because suddenly they feel like it's in their hands to bring value to this moment. And then once you start serving in church, like I went like, oh my goodness, this is uncomfortable, but now I suddenly feel like I get to play a part in people's healing, restoration, salvation. Like if I'm not here today, if I don't pack out these seats correctly, like it's not going to happen for them. And that's how, like in the whole role of church, I feel like that's what we get to do. We're prepping a place for people to get healed, restored, saved. Like, we're not even speaking like from bad to good. We're speaking from death to life.
Wow.
That is what we do in church. And I have to remind myself, I'm not here to see people go from bad to good. Like, good people don't go to heaven. People who's like actually gave their life and surrendered their life to Jesus, they go to heaven. That's what we get to do in the church and through the vehicle of the church. And I can say a lot of incredible things about the church. I'm passionate about the church.
You actually said a lot in one question, and that was actually amazing.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's like one question, 3 questions answered in one question almost. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. The thing I actually want to touch about more, because we do have a struggle, and I do want to get personal with this, because this obviously is part of our journey on this side, and we sometimes feel frustrated, we sometimes feel stuck. We sometimes feel we can't grow as we want to grow because we are feeling stuck, feeling at the moment where we're being pulled back. And we're excited to serve, but we're getting tired. But also in the same way, quickly, I think you touched on it, but just to emphasize more on that, why is it important to serve or to be connected? Even if you don't serve, but obviously through serving does come connectedness, or even to be connected. Why is it important to serve? Why is it important to be connected? We call our small groups cell groups, obviously. And how occasionally must I serve? I think this is something that we still need to get over the struggle with, because my life is always busy, and now they expect me to be here for free, all right?
Yeah.
On a Sunday. That is supposed to be my rest day. How do we convince them it's right? I don't know how to say it. How do we
the thing is, you will never convince anyone. Sure. You can motivate them and you can, but it's only like, you need to catch it. You need to and that's what I'm saying about if I speak to you guys today, you need to understand that we're not playing church. We're actually doing something that completely changes people's lives for eternity.
Come on.
And then once you catch that, and that's why for me it was when God said, be planted in the house of God. There was no looking back. There was I will do this.
Yeah, you went to church, you just sat through all 3 services. You would serve in one, you'd sit in another, just to be there.
Yeah, I was doing 5 services on
Sunday.
And
then he was playing rugby and studying in the week. So.
Oh, come on, that's busy.
But this is, and when students come to me and they're like, oh, I've got a busy life, I'm like, tell me about it. I've lived it. But there was one thing that I will forever stand on the promises of God. So I'm going to be planted in the house of God. I'm going to be part of your fellowship. I'm going to be worshiping God. I'm going to be, this is my least of my sacrifice, because Jesus gave me his life on the cross. If we sit here today, or you're wearing a cross around your neck, or you see all these crosses, you need to know your sacrifice doesn't even hold 1% to what Jesus did for us.
Come on.
So that's it. That's the whole thing about it. But also, once you start serving, because we go oh, my life is serving, and it's no, this is what God, literally Jesus came to give his life to build the church. So I'm going to give my life to build the church. Now, this is not why I'm on staff for church. My goal was just to serve in church, and Phil asked me to come and work for church, and I was like, no, I've got my own things going on. And then I had to hear from God. So it's not everybody's called into ministry. But even when I wasn't working and getting my paycheck from church, I was there as much as every pastor. I was there, listen, we had Connect Group. I was running a Wednesday night, because I went, my university doesn't have an awesome Connect Group. So I started one. We started off with 12 people. We ended up every Wednesday having 150 people. Not because I'm awesome, but because I was willing to do something that actually people needed in their lives. And with that is that was after I came back from, so I was then at medical campus, driving in, go practice rugby in Stellenbosch, drive back, literally get out of my clothes, quickly shower. I wouldn't even know what I'm preaching about, do a Wednesday night, Friday I'm at youth, Sunday I'm there all 5 services, Tuesday night I'm running a Connect Group, and that was my number one priority, and then everything else flowed from that. And because I made that a priority in my life, serving God and serving His people, I've never seen God bless me more through the stuff that I thought I was going to not have time for. You know, like when you go like, oh, I don't have, no, you were just watching more Netflix.
This is the best thing. So when I met him, I don't know if I can tell you this, but when I met him, he'd already... So when I was at school, I'm like a little bit. Okay, wait. So I'm trying to give you background. So when I was in school, I would be like, I study a lot for tests. Like I just need to get A's. Okay. So I meet him, and Wessel's like, oh, like how long have you been studying? He's like, this is like my 7th year, and I'm like, cool, that's like really long. And he's like, oh, well, I play rugby, so sometimes like I've failed 1 or 2 years, and I'm like, oh.
This is on my 2nd degree. No, I didn't do 1 degree.
Yeah, so he got 1 degree, and then he was doing physio, but I understood because when I heard the stories, but I'm like that, like because he would come back from France like a week before, and then he'd have to write his exam, and he wouldn't even know what's going on in the exam, let alone answer it right. And I'm like, okay, that's different. And then it's so funny because everybody in his class knew like he would barely go to class. Like he would tell me he would like barely go, and you know, like this, and people would do his like he would get notes from people, and he would never. It was just a shamble. And the more he started, actually, funny enough, like he said, like church started I don't know, transform. I don't know what happened. Like you started going. It's kind of like people. He wanted people to see that he wanted to be excellent because he's like, I know God's excellent, and I know He's calling me to more than just like loafing.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, it was the weirdest thing. He went from like not caring, getting like passing to like
and
smashing it. And people were like,
I was
what
like,
happened?
you
They were
can't
like,
be.
what happened to you?
You can't be this Christian who's like, oh, look, I'm at church the whole time and this, but then your life is falling apart. Wow. And
But he was doing all that stuff. So like, if you think of it, technically, it should have gone the other way around because he was
But that's what
serving. But it's like the excellence kind of just.
But that's when you start putting God first, everything starts flowing. So it's a discipline to follow God. So because I had that discipline, it started giving me discipline in other areas of my life.
Yeah.
And I went from like literally the worst in my class to top 3 in my class in 6 months by just going like, okay, if people start looking at me as this Christian, I need to be excellent for God. And it's not like I just went from lazy to disciplined. It's not like I didn't have enough time. I actually just became disciplined. It went from like rugby, you're just a great average player, to leading the team. And this was not like, it's just going from like, hey, it starts off with this discipline God gave me at church.
Yeah, like
I'm putting Him first, I'm serving other people. And
so it's so funny, you often say like, you know, it's such a sacrifice. And it is, because I've been there also not working for church, and Monday morning comes hard, and you're like, why did I serve all Sunday? But the stuff that I learned while serving, I cannot explain to you how it's changed my life. And the amount of people, and again, Sundays aren't for me, Sundays are for others. And I don't get my spiritual intake from a Sunday. I'm good. Like, I make sure I'm full before I get to Sunday.
That's not a question I prepared, but let's go on that for a
it's like
moment.
losing it.
That's insane.
So
aren't for me.
Yeah,
It's for others.
Yeah, it's for others, for people who have never heard of God, who are in a terrible like part of their life, and I serve them because I know they're going to one day be in a position where they can then do the same for somebody else. And
that's what do we always say?
Save people.
Serve people, so that serve people can become saved people.
Save people, serve people, so that served people can become saved people. And it's like a cycle that keeps working. And so anyway, so I know it's a sacrifice, but like what you actually get out of it in the end. So one, you're serving people and their life gets changed. And in the meantime, their life gets changed and your life gets changed. And I mean, somebody can stand up and encourage me to serve. That's fine. But that's actually not why I do it. Like, I have a conviction way before. I've decided.
If your life has been changed through church on a Sunday, or anything, or there's been stuff, God imparting something, you go like, okay, God, I've got this responsibility to have this relationship with you throughout the week, because when I get here on a Sunday, I'm here to look for that broken person. I want to be at a place where someone asks me, hey, will you pray for me, that I can pray with a conviction. Like, when you come to church, you sometimes we would always joke and we're like, listen, if you go to the bathroom, have a moment with God and come out and be ready to do what God's going to ask you to do. And we all know that, sometimes you're just like, I'm spiritually empty. And I've done that so many Sundays, and I felt like I've missed so many opportunities to help people and change their lives. And then I went like, oh my goodness, I actually have a responsibility. And this flows once again from my relationship with Jesus, saying, God, I want to have this relationship so that in a moment's notice, when you need me, when you call your disciple, that I can actually do something. Because I feel like I've gone through my life missing so many opportunities to change the lives of people around me, but I wasn't spiritually awake to it. So you want to be ready, and then you can come on a Sunday and be like, okay, God, there's going to be new people coming into this service today. I'm going to be ready. If you want to use me today, use me like however you want to use me. And that's why Sundays aren't ours. Sundays is in our family.
It's actually super practical. We just make the decision. Well, for us, it's a non-negotiable. But before then, we made the decision long before. So we don't make the decision on the Sunday morning when we had to get up at like 6.
Yeah.
We made the decision like it's a done deal. And it's hard. It's still hard to get up at 6 and
like in lockdown,
come
we were
back
like,
at 10.
oh, this is Sundays?
We're like, oh, wow, this is what everyone does on a Sunday.
Everybody goes out and have coffees or goes to the beach if it's a great day. And we were like, well, God, we can sacrifice one day of our comfort and this to make sure that your church is equipping the saints, getting people saved, doing all these things. And we're like, we're in. So since we were dating, we were just like, we know it's a non-negotiable. We're going to be at church. We're going to serve our local church. It doesn't have to be Hillsong Church as well. I truly believe God adds you to a family. Because believe me, the things that you think is a mess here is a mess at our house as well. Like, if it's a church family, it's always going to be messy. Because when you work with people, it's always messy. So people would always go like, oh man, I want to be in that church. It looks amazing. Yeah, until you're in it. Yeah. When it's just, sometimes even in a bigger church, it's just more problems. So
church is just made up of broken people trying to do a good thing.
Precisely. We're broken people trying to serve a perfect God.
Yeah.
So you got to be gracious with everyone. And be like, we're in this, and we're going to see people. God's going to use a donkey. He's going to use me. He's going to use anyone to change the lives of people. So in that, I believe the Holy Spirit adds you to a family. He puts leadership over you. And if you cannot be under authority, you can never be an authority. So if you want to be a leader, be under authority. If you can have a bad boss and still honor him. Now, this is for people in the world. If you can have a bad boss and honor him, I truly believe God's going to lift you to a place where you can be a good boss and actually bless people. But because we live in a generation where people are all super independent and I'm very opinionated and I'm going to do this and I'm going to go out and do. It's I truly believe that God puts us under authority. And even in the Bible we read David had a terrible king, King Saul. And David could have killed him twice. And he said, who am I to kill God's chosen? Sometimes people are just going to be where they are because God has put them there, but God's actually using it to teach you things. And if you're in a church and you can see all the need and you can see all the problems, be a solution, not the critic to it. Come on. So be part of the church where you're I'm going to actually champion these people. I'm going to actually encourage. You know who never gets encouraged in the church? Is this guy. They always think the pastor is awesome and he's good. It's no, you're man, I hope someone's going to tell me my word was good. It's just someone to encourage me because everybody will text you, hey, this was bad today. Or when I came in, my parking spot wasn't there. Or someone sat on my seat. And, someone didn't phone me when I asked last week, I want to join the Connect. There's so many problems we got to deal with. And then nobody wants to encourage you. So I would say, if you want to serve the church, serve the leadership and ask them where's the biggest need and be a part of, bringing the solution. Because if you're going to be a critic in this church, you're going to be a critic everywhere. I will be the last person to critique the church because Jesus gave his life for the church. So I'm going to be the biggest one championing it, knowing that it's a bunch of people who's emotional, who's insecure, who's sometimes it goes to our head and think we're amazing. It was actually only God. You can come to us and be like, look at this, the place is packed, and we could think we are awesome. And then it's no, that is God. And God is going to use the person after me and the person,
Amen.
so you just got to be a part of something where you believe the Holy Spirit. So I said, I'm loyal to God, not to my church, or not in a sense of like, hey, this is where you need to be. I'm like, if God tells me go somewhere else, I'll go. But where He has me is where I will honor, where I will serve, where I will build until He tells me otherwise. So if God's attitude to this family, like serve this family and be the best you here and serve people, because only God moves you. Not offense, not a bad seat, not those things shouldn't move you. Only God should move you. And don't be the people who's like, yeah, God. So many young adults, yeah, God told me. It's like, no, what's her name? Yeah. Like, it's actually a girlfriend down. It's like, sorry, I'm actually going like very hard right now. I'm not talking to you. I'm actually venting about my own young adults right now. You know, so, but I'm just saying, God has you here. He's got a blessing here for you. So be a part of us and build this, because Worcester is massive. There's so many people who needs a great church.
Absolutely. You actually said now, you actually answered a question what I wanted to ask. How do you help the local church leaders and honor the one if you don't even, let's say, straight like him, but God planted you here, but you don't like him. So you kind of answered that already. But
everybody likes you, so it's not for you.
No.
And this is what you got to understand. So this is the conversations we would have. Is someone will come up and someone is graced. You know, like there's a worship. Could be that today you had 3 worship leaders up here, and they're all graced differently. So the one will be great with this type of song. The one will be great doing this, and then people will start going like, I want all of it in one. Like you didn't get Jesus, you got a pastor. Yeah. So you got to understand who you have. And like Kenneth will be this guy who's incredible with leading in this way. And there's someone else here doing this. That's why we're all the hands and feet and the nose and the ears. And if you don't play your part, the whole body is not working. Because I would say for us in our church, we've got incredible preachers who's not incredible pastors. And then we've got incredible pastors who's not great teachers. So we need all of them to bring their gifts. Because if nobody pastors the people, no one will get pastored. But if nobody teaches, nobody will get taught. If nobody preaches, no one will get encouraged. So whatever you bring it with everything. But don't put it all on like 1 or 2 guys to be everything. And that's sometimes also so like
pressure.
Yeah, like there's so much like be like Stephen Furtick. It's like no, like Stephen Furtick is Stephen Furtick. Okay, well then be this guy. It's like I can only be myself. Yeah. And that's where you also need to understand who God has given you. Like if you have a leader who's great at this, like encourage that out of him. Like see the goal in that and bring it out of him. And then you always surround yourself with people who's like, for me, it's like I need to surround myself with people so much better than me because they bring an element that I could never bring. And that's what
admin people.
People who's good with admin, people who are actually
good with
funny.
Technology.
Oh, come on.
Like we got married just because I don't know how to put on a computer. So she still to this day has to do that for me. But be surrounded by people who's so different, who's so diverse, who brings different strengths. And not comparing. I'll preach about comparison tonight. But don't compare yourself to someone else's gift because then you'll miss out with what God has for you. Wow. So, just another point on leadership. So,
yes, go, please.
Yeah, be yourself.
You actually talked about you're here to serve people. The one thing I obviously noticed, and I'm going to be actually very real on this because this is our battle at the moment, trying to encourage people to invite people to church. So I actually want to ask the question, must I invite people? Like just bang on, must I invite people to church? Because the thing is, saying I'm here not for myself, but for others. But you're not inviting people constantly for new people to come. You are going to get in a position where I feel like we are struggling to get out of, I'm here for myself. I'm here to be fed, and that's why I criticize, that's why I don't show up or I'm not worried about it. How do I get this mindset of church, I must invite people? Is it something to do? Is it something that we...
Well, you preached about it this morning. If the people didn't get it, I'll send you the video today. But it's like, it literally starts off with, this is not a secret to be kept. You know, this is not a secret. Like, if this has helped you, if God has literally changed your life, why would you not invite people to it? It's like, who's had those telemarketers and they're super passionate about a super bad, I want to use but like a super bad product. But they will encourage you and you'll end up buying it. You know, like, how can they do that and we can't even get people to church? You know, like, if you are passionate about, like, what Jesus has done in your life and how you are impacted and how you love worship and how you get to get into this, why would you keep the secret for yourself? Like, it's like, we've, especially in sport, like, I don't know if you guys know Manatech or Herbalife. Like, those guys are so passionate about
Just arrived in Worcester.
Yeah, but they're so passionate about this product they're selling in you. They say, this can cure cancer and this can, I'm like, do you know Jesus? He cures cancer. He like brings you from death to life. He heals you. He restores you. Does all these things in your life. But I'm selling Manatech to you. You know, like, and not like I love supplements. We got to keep on selling it. People need it. It's incredible. But why would you not invite people to something that is pivotal, primary to your belief, to your life? And I would question it then, like, is this, you know, your non-negotiable? Is this primary to your life? Is this the thing that actually gives you energy? Is this the things that really ground
what
you?
What if it's not? What if it's not the thing giving you the
Well,
energy?
you have to ask, like, do you believe in it then? And if you don't, you either have to get a conviction about it or, I don't know, find something
You
else.
have to be.
But here's the thing
Continue.
as well. No, sorry, I'm interrupting you. But the thing is, like, I think people overcomplicated inviting people to church. I think we think, like, to be honest, a lot of people who don't come to church think that the roof's going to fall on them, like, and they're usually scared about it, and we overcomplicate it. But again, like Wessel said, our job is not to save people. Like, that's God's job. And often we bring in people, and again, they don't remember the message. They don't even remember who sang. It's like they remember the conversation they had at the door, or they remember a moment that God spoke to them. That has nothing to do with me. And who am I to keep that from someone? So if I invite someone to church, they can come or they don't have to, but I did my part. Like, I planted my seed and I was obedient. If they don't come, that's not on me. If they do come, that's still not on me. Now they have a moment with God. Like, I'll like meet them, I'll say hi, like, I'll even keep them a seat. I'll do my best. But to get them saved and to get their life changed, that's not like my job. It's God. God can only do that. And sure, if that does happen, we can walk a journey. Discipleship's a whole nother thing. But inviting someone to church and actually just being a friend and a normal person, someone that cares for them, going, hey, come or don't come. Like, be nonchalant about it. And people can pick up. If you're like, no, you must come. No, you have to come. Oh, my gosh. People run. Like, if somebody told me that, I'll be like, no. Something, like, you super eager about something. Something's going to happen. Like, no. But if you go like, hey, check it out. Or like, yo, I'm going to be there on Saturday, come. I remember inviting so many people, and after like 6 months they'll come. And I'm like, wow, it only took you like so long. But then they come and they love it. And I'm like, that's why I invited you,
You know why?
6 months ago.
You know why we actually have, I think, excellence and ownership is because have you ever brought a person to church and then suddenly you start looking at everything differently? You're like, why was the coffee not warm today? My new friend now had and then you're like, this worship, like, we can do better with this. And, you know, why did we pick that song? And then you're like, oh man, why is this? Like, if this could have been better, then he could have gotten saved.
You're like, actually, the parking is chaos outside. Like, somebody should help out with the parking.
And because we have this culture of inviting people, we suddenly have so many people who goes like, okay, well, now I've got a responsibility to make things great.
My friend said he would actually come next week Sunday. This happens to us all the time. They're like, I invited my friend and they said they're coming. Where do they come? Can I keep a seat? How do I keep a seat? Now all of a sudden you're thinking of like, where do I get them? And you think of everything.
And you think of your language as well, because then your language of coming up here is going like, hey, who's here for the first time? Like, welcome. And you know, you explain a few things differently because we have our Christianese way of doing it. And then for those people, it's like, I don't understand why you have to put up your hands. You know, you don't have to. And like, for me, the biggest turning point in my life was when a guy just sat down with me, and he had no expectation of me coming to his church. But he actually explained to me, like, the difference between religion and grace. Like, this grace that is undeserving, this grace that is like, you can struggle with things and be a part of something. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that kept me from going to church, because I was always like, I've got to first get my life in order. I've got to at least have 6 days of no sin, and then on the 7th day I can go to church, and maybe then. And then it was actually just like also for us being out in the world, being normal, telling people how gracious it is, how it's not religious, how I'm not putting up an act, how I'm just living out of the grace of what God has given me. And then being like, man, if you want to know more about this, like, come over. Like, we meet every Sunday. We're down here at the Worcester Christian Gemeente. It's in the, what's it, Baring Street? And, you know, is that the right name? Baring. And then it just becomes like, for them, it's in the head. And then one day they're just going to... And I've invited so many people, and a year later they come, or I've invited people, and they came and they never came back, you know? And it's like, but that's not our job. Our job is to get them here, and we'll keep on inviting, and we'll keep on seeing empty bottles outside the doors, people finishing their cigarette, you know, coming in, and just being like, at the end of the day, putting up their hands and saying, God, I've surrendered my life to so many things. Can I surrender to you today? And that for me is like the biggest win of church. And it's always like, we all know sanctification it's a process. You don't go like, saved and now I've got no problems. Like, you do this journey, so you keep on pitching up, you keep on being part of something, you keep on inviting people. And we're not religious people. We're just people who love Jesus, and we're pretty, can I use the word screwed up? Like,
yes, you can.
That's not, we shouldn't
Messy,
use it.
no,
We're pretty messy.
Messy.
We're pretty messy, and that's why we need church and we need people. And then for me to feel better, I bring more unsaved people, so I feel a bit more saved, you know? So that's why I do it.
That's good.
That's what you did.
That's a good. I think we've touched about all of the questions regarding that. I just want to talk about, as we talked about leadership, as we talked about all these things, expectations, sometimes we fail in certain areas. We fail to be a leader or be influenced or be an influence. We fail to show discipline somewhere. How do we handle that, recover from that, and then just go back into influencing? And this will be our last convo for the session.
I think that literally that starts off with understanding the grace of God, because like I am a sinner, like all of us are, and that's why we need Jesus. And I could be on to preach tonight, and I could be thinking of things I shouldn't be thinking about, you know. But then you understand God's grace and His mercy, and you're like, it's not about me, it's about serving other people, and God will still use me. And God, I'm drawing back into Your presence, and like I have a connect group I serve, and I have a connect group that I'm a part of where I can just sit and just be, you know, completely open. And this is a game changer, I would say, for especially men, because I think women are really good with this. But in my team, there's an open door policy in a sense of like guys coming to me and they love the church, they love God, but they failed. Like, and it's like you'll meet a girl in church and it will be amazing, and then a month later you end up sleeping together because you're just both broken and empty and found something in each other, and it's not what you wanted to do. And then I would never want people to leave church because of that. That's not a reason to leave. That's a reason to more and more dig into what God is doing. Like shame and guilt, that's what the enemy uses to take us out of where we're supposed to be. And so one of my friends came over to me, and this guy he's incredible. And he's been serving the church for years. And he's like, Wessel, I just want to tell you this. And he gave me like this bomb. And I'm like, this is crazy. But in the book of James, it even speaks about, you know, receive your healing. You know, repent and receive your healing by telling a brother. So it actually says you need to repent between you and God, but you receive your healing through telling someone else. And this is in the book of James. You can go read it. And for him to go like, I'm repenting of what I've done, but now I'm going to receive my healing through having accountability, having fellowship, having those people in my life who I can be super honest with, like that changed the game for him for me, because I've got this guy was the best man at my wedding, we've done life together. We know each other at our worst and our best. So I will come to church and I'll be like, bro, let me quickly chat to you. I'm going to get this off and I'll tell him something. He's like, I'm with you. Okay, great. Let's go serve people today. You need to be able to go like, Jesus already died for my sin. You don't have to hold on to it. The enemy wants you to hold on to stuff, and he wants you to carry baggage and shame and all these things. And it's like, Jesus already died for it. Why do you want to carry it around? So I just became very light, not the burden of sin, but holding it lightly. Going like, oh, I messed up. Sometimes I used to do this as a university student, and this is now on my journey of, like, I'll be like, I did something wrong, and then I feel like I had to do so many things to right my wrongs. And then God just went like, just turn your eyes to me immediately. Like, don't even think you have to go do something else. Turn your eyes to me, say sorry, get a friend, tell him, and let's go on. Because that time you're wasting by holding on to stuff is just messing you up. So with that, like, don't let anything hold you back. Like honestly, none of us are sitting here because we're holy. Only God is holy. So we're sitting here because we've realized that we've got grace and we've got mercy, and we're joining into the presence of God, and like we become empty, and then we're like, okay, I'm going to go back into the presence.
I think, but also at the same time, we still hold ourselves to a standard. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So for instance, with this guy, he was at that point a leader, and most people go like, well, there he goes. Like, you see pastors all the time. They're like, they mess up and then they're gone, and it's over. And I think with him, what stood out for me is that he took a step back, right? But he stayed. Like, he kept coming. He stayed in our Connect group. He kept meeting up with Wessel. He kept working through it. And eventually, a few months later, he got to a position where he was good again. And it wasn't like, oh, you're good. He literally did the hard work. And there was this massive moment where at some point, maybe like a year later, he went back into leadership. And I mean, he's married now. It was just this crazy thing. But so often we let mistakes take us out. Now, yes, there's still a standard. Like, we want to hold people to accountability and standards, but they're not there to crush you. They're there to help you live a better life. As soon as a standard starts making you just live terribly anyway, that defeats the purpose. And so he was like, no, I know I need to be better, so I'll step off of like leadership team. I'm going to work out my life. I'm going to figure out why I did this. And by the time he did hard work and realized how he was raised, realized so many things, and he was like, okay, now I'm good. And then it wasn't an issue, but because he did the work. Now, a lot of people go like this. Oh, I was a leader, I messed up, or I was in church, I messed up, and then I leave. That's actually an easy way to go. That's a little bit, okay, cowardly sounds hectic, but it's a little bit like it's an easy road, because now you don't have to do the work. Now you're like, well, God, see, I screwed up. So, like, I messed up in this area, and so I guess that's it. That's it for me. And it's harder to stay and do the work and figure it out and actually mend relationships if it was that. Or, actually, it's easier to run away and go like, see, God, I told you can't use me. Like, I messed up. And so I think it's like super, I don't know what the word is. Like, it's like people, I really respect people who will stay in church even if they've messed up, do the hard work, mend relationships, and build trust again. And I literally see their life flourish because they were like, God, I want to be back with you. Like, not back from, they were never gone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think you step back, but you don't step out. Like,
he never stepped out, but he knew he needed a season where he wasn't good leading. He couldn't lead at this point. He needed to first work out what was going on.
And we all, like any person has got the ebb and flow. Like, we sometimes don't have balance, but you need to be like, I'm at a good place. I'm here now. We've gone through a massive season. Like, we've launched this. I had this conference going and this, and then you need to know yourself as well. Like, when you've given out a lot, you need to put a lot back in as well. So I was thinking when you preached this morning just about that, we live in this dichotomy, this like two different worlds where we go like, it's not about you, but it's all about you. It's not about what you do, but it is about what you do. And we sometimes but it's all about the starting point. It's all about, are you starting at the root or are you starting with the fruit of it? And you have to go, okay, I've started with it's not about me, therefore it's about me. It's started with Jesus did this for me, so I'm going to do it for someone else. So He did the good work so that I can do the good work. It's not starting with I do good work to get it from God. I'm serving people so that I can get served. So it's always about, in all of this, your starting point is with God, looking at the root of everything. And I think with all of this, if there's like a big thing we can, for you to walk away with today, and it's just a little picture of, when you've got, you've heard of someone who's got cancer, and they don't go to the doctor and the doctor gives them a Panado for the headache. He actually goes like, listen, we're going to attack this thing aggressively. We're going to go to the root of what's happening. And sometimes religion says, have a Panado. Just stop doing this. It's all these things on the side. Like, hey, if you're going to stop smoking, Jesus is going to love you. No, He can love you while you're smoking as well. But when Jesus comes to the root of it, and those stuff starts dying, everything else is going to fall off. So I think I always started at the place of like, if I can first leave this and then leave that and leave this, and then I can get to the root of who Jesus made me to be. No, start with Jesus and everything else falls into place. So
good. I thought we were finished, but then a question came up. And because
we can take questions in here, or if you guys are super smashed, we can also go rest out.
But we must do this one because all of them are going to be leaders and amazing people of the session. So they need to know this. Now, sometimes we're in a position where we feel broken or failed. But how do I handle the person on the receiving side? Being the person that is handling if you understand what I mean, someone coming to me failed. How do I handle that? As a friend, as a leader, because sometimes we are quick to judge if someone comes to us in that situation.
Yeah, be super gracious, I think. If people...
okay.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Go.
So someone once told us, I think it was our John Norman, he spoke about there's truth and grace, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you go get eye surgery, right? And the doctor says, right, so I need to get something.
Dentist.
Eye surgery. Or the dentist, let's say the dentist. The dentist. Say you go to the dentist and the doctor has to, let's say, remove a tooth. If he just goes straight in without any
Local
anesthetic, that's going to be maybe the worst thing ever. But if he just gives you anesthetic and then goes, yeah, you're good, go on of your way. Like, you're going to get an abscess, you're going to have infection, you're still going to have the problem at the end. So anesthetic is like grace, and the scalpel is like truth, right? And so you need grace first. You need that anesthetic to go like, you cannot just go scalpel. You cannot just go hard truth. And that's normally when people feel condemned by the church. They feel judged. They feel like this is not a safe place. But if you just have all grace and you're like, you're awesome, mate. Like, you're going to be fine without going, but listen, here's some hard truth. Yeah. Like, you cannot be in that situation again. Like, what are you going to actually do to stop that situation again? Like, what do we need to do? Let's have some real moments. Let's have some real conversations about how this ended up. If you do not have that, you're going to be great, you're going to be good, mate, and you're probably going to end up back at the dentist because you've still got the tooth or the infection. And so it's grace, but it's also, it's truth.
Grace and truth, you need to work them. So first of all, be gracious, so that people can, because people want to know they can approach you, and it's always a great sign of leadership if people come to you with problems. That's like, sometimes we're like, but be gracious, and then start speaking truth into their lives. And the biggest life changes we've seen in people is when you just go like, listen, I'm hearing everything, and here's the truth, because the truth sets you free. And when they hear that, it actually changes their lives forever. So that's we've worked with young adults, and then we were very gracious, and those people just, we were using that example earlier of like, our senior pastor Brian Houston always speaks about standing on a ski slope, and he was standing next to a guy, and every time he looked, he was 5 meters away from him, and then he looks again, and he's 10 meters, and he's like, I wasn't moving, but without realizing I was drifting. And what you need someone to be honest with you so that you will stop drifting. And we were sometimes in a lot of seasons very gracious and, hey, just get better, just do this. And those people just kept on drifting because grace made them feel better, but they never had the truth to bring them back. And so you need both of them. When people come to you, be gracious, understand that we're all sinners, and then start, like, it's not about your opinion. Get like scriptures and say, this is what God's saying about you. This is what God has for you. This is where you're going. This is what we're going to do. And so I've never had answers. I've always just had the Bible. And that's changed people's lives. So
good. Thank you.
Amazing.
Was het helpful geweest vir julle? Ja. Amen.